Good evening, afternoon, or wherever you are in the world. And we are live here with Force 13 to give a little bit of a discussion on the situation with Typhoon Yutu. It passed through the Marianas Islands yesterday as an extremely powerful hurricane, potentially as strong as 185 miles per hour. As you can see here, the satellite appearance has degraded quite a bit, to say the least. Definitely is not a Category 5 anymore. However, the models continue to trend closer and closer to the Philippines. And even though the potential impacts are probably still another 4 to 5 days out, we are still here to provide the latest. So currently, right now, Typhoon Yutu, according to the JMA anyways, currently has a minimum central pressure of 925 millibars with a maximum 1 minute sustained wind speed of 140 knots, and that is of the latest. So they're still keeping it a Cat 5. However, it is likely weaker than that now, likely in the Category 4 region. I'm going to pull up the two cones here to show you the two different tracks that we have. The first one, this is by the official organization, the JMA. They have the storm right now at 5 days. The center of the cone going directly over central Luzon, which would be a potentially dangerous situation, obviously, for the Philippines. And note that the cone also encompasses areas as far north as Taiwan. Pagasa also has their cone out, and you'll note that it is a bit slower, doesn't quite make it to central Luzon at 5 days. However, it is still within the cone. And in fact, most of Luzon is within the cone. The JMA doesn't really expect the storm to lose much intensity as the storm treks west towards the Philippines. Right now, they have it at 925 millibars. In 24 hours, same strength. 48 hours, a little bit weaker at 935, and it's expecting to stay 935 all the way to the Philippines. As far as what Pagasa has to say about the system, they say Typhoon Yutu has maintained its strength as it continues to move west-northwest. They say that the maximum sustained winds are 210 kilometers per hour, or roughly 125 miles an hour, and the movement is west-northwest at 20 kilometers per hour. They are expecting Yutu to enter the Philippine area of responsibility by Saturday morning, and it will be named Rosita at that point. And the tropical cyclone warning signal may be raised as early as Monday morning over Isabela and Cagayan areas. So that is the absolute latest on Typhoon Yutu. You can see here are the latest spaghetti plots with this. Obviously, don't ever focus on any one of these. You want to kind of focus on where the consensus is. And you can see, at least on the bottom here, which is where the first 5 days are beneath 20 north, you can see the storm starts to trek a little bit up to the north and then takes a bend back to the south towards the island of Luzon and potentially very close to the Cagayan Islands, as it is likely to stall. So the situation at play here is we have a trough that is going to come down over eastern China, and basically what's going to happen is that's going to put the brakes on the storm moving west, and it's going to take a hard right turn. The timing of the hard right turn, as you can see, not well known exactly when it's going to happen. It could end up going very slowly over Luzon. It could end up stalling here and then shooting up off to the north and east, or it can recurve very quickly. Thus, why you see a massive uncertainty in the cone for the JMA, because there is actually a lot of uncertainty for where Typhoon Yutu will be heading. Trying to figure out anything else. So again, here is the latest imagery of Typhoon Yutu. Let's refresh that to make it a little bit better. And one of the things that happened with Typhoon Yutu, of course, it was a very powerful Category 5 yesterday, and it ended up going underneath not one, but two eyewall replacement cycles in one day. And you can basically see the second one tore the entire storm apart. You had these yellow and blue cloud tops here, which signify very, very, very cold cloud tops. We're talking minus 80, minus 85 degrees. Very, very, very tall cloud tops extending all the way around this eye. And the eye was a lot smaller. And now you can see pretty distinctly here on the Himawari 8 imagery that you have two eyewall features here. You have this very weak inner eyewall, and you have this outer eyewall here trying to form. And the system is really a mess with that eyewall replacement cycle right now, which is why its intensity is currently waned a bit. It's unknown if it will end up re-intensifying once the eyewall replacement cycle is complete, although I think one thing is for sure, the eye that ends up coming out of this system is going to be quite massive. You can see it here. It's going to basically be this entire circle that my cursor is tracing out. And it will be one of the more beautiful looking storms that we've seen in quite a while if it were to get its act back together and get its eye completed. If you have any questions for us, just start your message out, Force 13 all in text. I'll try my best to answer as many questions as I can. So Daphne Garvin France says, hey, Force 13, can Invest 95L become our last named storm of this hurricane season? It seems that yes, actually, and I did pull this up. Invest 95L has a pretty good chance at becoming a tropical storm. In fact, it might even have an outside chance of becoming a hurricane, as you can see here, the HWRF and HMON, both of them getting it all the way up to Category 2 at the end of the 5-day period. I think that might be stretching it a little bit, but it looks like that the intensity consensus seems to be around strong tropical storm. But you can see here the models have it taking this really weird S-bend where it treks north for the first 2 days, and then it bends off to the west, and then it bends back off to the north. So it's going to take a little bit of a meandering here, but it doesn't look like Invest 95L will be of any threat to land anytime soon. So I would not be too worried about Invest 95L. If anybody were to keep an eye on it, I would probably say from the looks of some of the extended models, potentially Atlantic Canada. We could see here, even then, it looks like it's going to stay a pretty decent far away from... It's going to stay pretty decently off the south and east coast of Newfoundland. So I don't think that's going to be an issue there. But the model's in very good agreement on what the storm's going to be doing for the next 4 or 5 days or so. So it is pretty likely 95L probably going to become our next named storm in the Atlantic. Someone also asks, is it possible for Typhoon Yutu to be like Hurricane Patricia? I think that window has effectively closed for Yutu. I don't think it's going to get back to its former intensity. Force 13 analysis put the storm preliminarily at 185 miles per hour with a minimum central pressure of 896, although the readings on Saipan are kind of weird and suggests that the pressure is actually somewhere in the 40s. So that's likely due to some instrumental error. It's very unlikely that this storm was any weaker than a Category 5 as it was moving through the islands. I think that's a pretty good lock, to say the least. But I think it missed its shot at becoming anything close to Hurricane Patricia. It's not going to be Hurricane Patricia. Even as it approaches the Philippines, I don't think it's going to end up even being at Cat 5 intensity. It's not going to be as strong as Mangkhut if it were to impact Luzon. It's still 5 days out, so it's still hard to tell exactly where it's going to go. Again, JMA has the center of the storm passing over Luzon in 5 days at the center of the cone. Pagasa has it offshore, but regardless, almost all of Luzon is within the cone. A little bit of Taiwan. You have the Cagayan and Babayan Islands also in the cone. So basically anything from southern Luzon north to Taiwan should be watching this storm pretty closely to see what will happen. Whether if it will end up stalling and trekking very slowly over Luzon or end up making this sharp bend here. It doesn't look like that it's going to impact Japan. I think Japan's going to be okay for now. But it does not look like it's going to impact Japan. The current wind speed of Yutu is, the JMA says 160 miles per hour, still a Cat 5. I don't think it's quite that strong. I think it's probably in the 140s right now. Currently undergoing an eyewall replacement cycle and struggling with it, to say the least. The storm kind of tore itself apart, which is definitely a good thing. Hopefully it continues to struggle with its own structure as it approaches the Philippines. But as of right now, the Philippines should keep a very close eye on it, continue to monitor. Anybody in the Philippines should continue to monitor it. The official advisory, repeating what they said, they think that Tuesday morning, the storm is most likely to be 240 kilometers east of Tuguegarao City in Cagayan as a typhoon. And it's expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility by Saturday morning and will be named Rosita upon entering. And the tropical cyclone warning signals may be raised as early as Monday morning over Isabela and Cagayan. So keep that in mind. Is a category, well, there is no category 6, so no. Obviously no. There's no such thing as a category 6. If something doesn't exist, how can it be something? So that's pretty cut and clear there, to say the least. Now, I want to take you guys back kind of a day to show you exactly what I've been talking about here with Yutu, because it's actually been quite the impressive evolution, to say the least, how quickly this storm blew up and now how quickly the storm ended up disintegrating. We're going to see 24 hours of a satellite loop here, and you can see Typhoon Yutu as a very strong storm passing through the Marianas Islands. Then the eye goes away, and it's been struggling since then. So the eyewall replacement happened, and now a second eyewall replacement happened, and it's been a struggle, to say the least, for Yutu. And hopefully that continues to be the case. Obviously, the Philippines do not need another significant typhoon. They've already been affected by Typhoon Mangkhut. And hopefully this storm just continues to struggle. However, if it is able to get its act back together, the eye that it produces is going to be absolutely massive. But as of right now, inner and outer eyewall are really fighting against each other, fighting for domination, and neither of them are currently winning, and the entire storm is losing because of it. So this tug of war that's currently going on. What the only thing that it's really accomplishing is really expanding the maximum wind field, which you'll see here how Yutu is not exactly that large of a system, and now this eyewall replacement cycle is going, and look at how much larger it ends up getting. So this eyewall replacement cycle has really only accomplished really increasing how large the storm is, and of course that's not going to do it any favors. As far as storm surge, that's only going to increase the storm surge. That's going to increase its rating on the CDPS. It's too far out for the Philippines to say what the CDPS rating of this storm is projected to be, mainly because we can't tell what the size of the storm is going to be that far out. We have difficult telling that just 2 days out. So it's too early to tell what the CDPS rating is going to be as it comes ashore, potentially comes ashore in the Philippines. Of course, Typhoon Mangkhut maxing out my scale, a stage 10, full stage 10 on the CDPS, being one of the largest storms to have ever affected the Philippines, and also at category 5 intensity. Just an extremely impressive storm all around, to say the least. What website do you use to track her? Yes, the satellite imagery that you are seeing here, this is off of the RAM website, which you should see watermarks for. You should see the whole website here, but that is off of the RAM, RAMMB site. Of course, you have the Japanese Meteorological Agency cone here. You have the PAGASA cone here, Philippine Atmospheric, Geophysical, and Astronomical Services Administration. That's where this comes from. And these come from something called NCAR or UCAR, and you can search them up and find these graphics as well. So if you want to go ahead and search all those sites up yourself, go ahead. Those are all of the sources that I am using for this video. Any chance that it will hit Hong Kong? I do not think so. It looks like it's going to stay pretty much to the east of Hong Kong here. Hong Kong is pretty far buried over here. It's unlikely to get into the South China Sea. Only a few outliers actually take it over there. I don't think it's going to get into the South China Sea. It's more likely going to stall here off the northeast coast of Luzon. I don't think it's actually going to hit Luzon. But it absolutely could, and it's like 5 days out. The Hong Kong impacts would likely be anywhere between 8 to 10 days out if they were to occur. But unlikely for impacts in Hong Kong. As far as any predictions for the disturbance in the Atlantic, you can pretty much see the general consensus here. Moving off to the north, and then it's going to hook to the west, go to the southwest, and then hook back to the north, while maintaining moderate tropical storm status. Unlikely to bring any significant impacts to land anywhere as a tropical entity. Pretty much just going to be one of your late season fish storms that really doesn't do anything. It should be noted that the HMON and the HWRF both bring this storm up to Category 2 intensity. I definitely don't think it's going to get there. I do not think it's going to get there. It's more than likely just going to be a moderate tropical storm doing whatever over the northern Atlantic over the next few days. Yes, Yutu is expected to weaken, but it's not going to really weaken that much. That's one of the things, is that Yutu right now is not necessarily going to weaken that much. Plus, once its eyewall replacement cycle is complete, there's always the possibility of it re-strengthening back up to Category 5 intensity. Fingers crossed that that doesn't happen. But intensity forecasting, especially at 4 or 5 days out, it's really a crapshoot. It's pretty much throwing darts in the dark. You really don't know 100% what's going to happen. Right now, we are pretty much just waiting to see what Yutu does and hope that it continues to struggle with its current eyewall replacement cycle. Yutu is going to continue trekking to the west, as noted here by the JMA cone. At 4 days, it's likely going to be pretty close to the Philippines, and at day 5, it's either going to be over Luzon or very close to Luzon and not exactly in a hurry to go anywhere. And Pagasa, same thing here. Day 4, it's pretty close to Luzon. Day 5, even closer to Luzon, but likely staying off course. So these are two agencies that are in a little bit of a disagreement here on exactly where the center of their cones are, but in general, the entirety of Luzon is in the cone. The Cagayan Islands are in the cone. Also, Taiwan is pretty much right on the edge of the cone of uncertainty as well. So all interest basically between Luzon and Taiwan currently need to be monitoring this storm. It's going to be 5 days out for any potential direct impacts. But right now, it seems like Typhoon Yutu is, and again, Typhoon Yutu is probably not going to weaken all that much. The sea surface temperatures are great. There's really no shear in front of it. The only thing that's going to hamper its intensity is the continuation of the eyewall replacement cycles that have been going on with the storm. And we can just hope that that continues to disrupt the structure of the system to the point of where, okay, this storm is just going to continue tearing itself apart, and we end up getting spared a second super typhoon impact in the Philippines, because obviously we don't want anything like that. And, oh, I clicked on the wrong IR band. We really do not want to have anything like that in the Philippines. Right now, it's pretty much just a sit and wait game. There's really nothing, there's really nothing to say about the storm other than it has been on a weakening trend. Hopefully that weakening trend will continue. The JMA expects the weakening trend to continue. Right now has it at 925 millibars. In 5 days, it has it at 935 millibars, so weakening slightly, but not really. It'll be interesting to see what Pagasa says for their intensity outlook. They keep it maintained at a typhoon for the pretty much the entirety of its cone. It keeps it a typhoon. And again, Tuesday morning, it has it only 240 kilometers east of Tuguegarao City in Cagayan Province. Typhoon Yutu is expected to enter the Philippine area of responsibility by Saturday morning and will be named Rosita. And the tropical cyclone warning signals will likely be issued as early as Monday morning. I imagine that these signals are going to be pretty high as this storm ends up coming closer and closer to the Philippines. Right now, of course, this storm well outside of the Philippine area of jurisdiction. It's likely not going to get there for a little bit. Plus, it's expected to slow down as it continues to go through. And yes, Ashton points out that the disturbance in the Atlantic could become Tropical Storm Oscar within the next 5 days. Why do we call hurricanes different names and continents? It's pretty much just a tradition of what has been called what where. We call them hurricanes. In the Pacific, they ended up being called typhoons, and everywhere else, they just got called tropical cyclones. That's just the way it's been. That's just how regions work. I mean, I don't know. There really isn't a 100% great explanation for it. It's just that's how that's how it is. That's how it's always been. And it's likely not to change anytime soon. If you have a question, start your post with Force 13 all in text. Just post it, and I will get to it. Likely, this will be the last question. This was just going to be a quick 30-minute live stream to present to you the latest on Willa. There really isn't too much else to go over than what I have already gone over. Will 95L become a major hurricane? Extremely unlikely on that. Less than a 2% chance to say definitely on that. But anyways, to end the stream, again, here are the respective cones for Typhoon Yutu. You can see here by the Japanese Meteorological Agency, it's going to continue rushing forward, but by day 2, it's going to start slowing down as it approaches the Philippines. Pagasa pretty much in agreement with that, and you can see here by the models, they're also pretty much in agreement with the same thing. So this storm is going to race forward for the next 2 days, and then as it approaches the Philippines, it's going to end up slowing down, and then a trough over China is going to start picking it up, and it's going to make a hard, sharp turn to the north and east. The timing of that sharp turn is currently to be determined, and the strength of the storm is also currently to be determined. It's very difficult to tell exactly what the strength of this storm is going to be in 4 or 5 days, but I advise that all interests in Luzon, Cagayan, Babayan, and Taiwan continue to monitor this system as it draws ever so closer to the Philippines. And that will end up concluding this quick live stream here from Force 13. And I advise you to just heed all local authorities and stay safe out there and stay tuned for more information.